Talk Radio Clutch with Keon Rose. I'm Keon Rose. I hope you're having a wonderful Friday. We've got a great show planned for you today. And it's the things that you need to watch this weekend. It's all of the things that you need to watch this weekend, brought to you by my big mouth, because I don't have a sponsor yet. Okay, I'm working on it. I don't know who to blame at all about that, but I do know that if I did have someone to blame, and I was just talking to Russell about this, because this is what is important in life, which is that you have some kind of nemesis, some kind of antagonist, and then you just shout their name as loudly as humanly possible when it is that they spurn you. And that was last night. TCU played West Virginia, and West Virginia head coach Dana Holgorsen was just having his defense absolutely scorched by Trayvon Boykin, who was all over the place, and you could just see him shaking his head in shame, and like he wasn't yelling at his players like, what do you yell at them to do? Because Trayvon Boykin was taking over that game. He front flips into the end zone, he dodges 3 defenders, and then walks out to the sideline where Dana Holgorsen is standing and just high fives him for no good reason. And Dana Holgorsen high-fived him back, because what else do you do? And I can just imagine Dana Holgorsen on the sideline just pulling out his hair and going, Boykin, just over and over again, as Trayvon Boykin did pretty much whatever he wanted. There was one play in which he was going to throw a pass, and the West Virginia lineman put his hands up in the air, so Trayvon Boykin just threw the pass from his hip. He just lowered the ball and launched it from his hip. When you can do things like that, it's not fair, and I don't know what else you're supposed to do. Just the entire state of West Virginia last night was just screaming, Boykin! There's nothing you can do to stop that guy. And he's got as good a shot as anybody to win the Heisman this year, because I don't know what you do to stop him. I still think Leonard Fournette probably wins it, but I don't know what you do to stop that guy when he's rolling. I mean, he's so fast. His arm is strong. He's accurate when he throws. I don't know what you do to stop that guy. TCU could very likely win out. I don't know if there's anybody playing better than them at this moment in terms of offense and defense finally coming together, because TCU has had some games where the defense there just doesn't make any sense. When they choose not to defend, let me tell you, they really choose not to defend. Kansas State, Texas Tech, even that early game, the first game of the season against Minnesota. Minnesota's defense, tough, scrappy, but there's no reason why TCU should have given up as many points as they did to them. But hey, when TCU wants to defend you, they can slow you down. But when they don't want to defend, they really, really don't want to defend at all. Boy. So we're going to be talking about, here on Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, things that you should be watching this weekend. I think that last week we basically just went all across the board football, college football. Whatever it was that you were watching last weekend had to be football, because those were the best things that were on, in my opinion. And I turned out to be right for most of those things. Tennessee, Alabama, that was a good game. Auburn, Arkansas, that was also a good game. And then Texas A&M got the butt beat, and I really don't want to talk about that one. That one was just lopsided. It was a bad game. So I'll try not to lead you into bad games. That's the goal here, is to lead you to something of high quality that you can watch and that you can enjoy. And so my first thing that you ought to be watching this weekend, and it starts tonight, actually, and then tomorrow night, is the World Series. You need to be watching the World Series, not because it's going to be a great battle of will. It's not going to be a home run derby, but to watch the weird way that the Royals play baseball and continue to win baseball games in such a perplexing fashion, which is that they're a team that gets a lot of doubles, they get a lot of triples. They just get on base, and then they just figure it out afterwards. And it's such a strange, odd way to play that's not anybody's strategy typically. And I'm not talking about playing small ball, where your goal is to get on base, and then you steal some bases here. And like the strategy there doesn't appear to be a strategy for the Royals after get on base. After they get on base, they figure the rest of that stuff out. And then, of course, because, they are eternally hitting the ball, the Royals don't miss. They're always hitting the ball. So at some point, they're just knocking runs in consecutively, and there's nothing that can be done to stop them. It doesn't appear. At least nothing that the Mets can do to stop them. I don't know what the situation is with New York. New York can't seem to get an edge here, which is weird because if you look at it on paper, right, the two teams don't seem like they should be this far apart, but looking at the games, they seem very far apart. Like even in the first game in which the Mets actually almost won that game and should have won that game, just you have one error and in come the Royals to tie this game up and then eventually take the lead, hitting against Fat Bartolo Colon. So what do you do when a team that you have beaten on paper continues to confound you, continues to flummox you? To me, that's interesting. Even though this series could very well end in a sweep, and I don't know that for sure, obviously. You're going back to New York. Was looking at the ballpark power rankings, by the way, that ESPN does their park factors rankings every year. They release it every February or so. And so I went back to the February article to look at it and see which parks are best for home runs and doubles and triples. And Kansas City, as you might expect, is in the top 10 of teams whose parks are basically not producing a high amount of home runs. They're middle of the pack, actually. They're about 11th, 12th. They're middle of the pack. They don't produce a ton of home runs. It's not a few home runs, but it's about an average park in terms of home run production. But what that park does have is a lot of doubles and triples that people will get to second and third base in that park very frequently. And we saw an inside the park home run in game one. So that proves that. Like you get on base, you get around the bases inside of that park. Okay. You're not knocking one out of the park with a high level of regularity. No team on average does. But what I was surprised to find, because I, again, don't watch a ton of Mets baseball, and up until there was a good point in this season where it didn't look like the Mets were any good at all. So nobody was watching Mets baseball outside of New York, I promise. The Mets, Citi Field is even more of a pitcher's park. Even less home runs are scored in Citi Field. That favors the Royals, who don't need to hit home runs to score points on you because they don't miss. The last game, they missed 3 on 3 swings. They weren't struck out 3 times. They missed on 3 swings in total. They hit almost everything that they saw. So, in a pitcher's park, the Royals have the advantage, which is strange because the Mets have the better pitching. On any given night, the Mets have the better pitching. They started with Matt Harvey, couldn't win that one. In game 2, they've got Jacob deGrom, and they couldn't win that one. Most nights, the Mets have the better pitching. So it's just odd that they're not able to come away with some of these wins, and I think it's because of how the Royals play. It's this odd, strange way of playing where you just get the ball in play, figure it out later. And their team is built for that. Tonight, the starting pitchers for the game are Yordano Ventura for the Royals and Noah Syndergaard for the Mets. And Syndergaard, I think that the Mets have an advantage here again at pitcher. Syndergaard throws heat. Like, he just throws incredible fastballs. And we're talking about the World Series as a game that you need to be watching this weekend. I'm cheating. I'm giving you 2 games, tonight's game and tomorrow's game. But, I mean, this series could probably be over by tomorrow night, depending on whether or not the Mets can start hitting, or if they can at least figure out how to stop Kansas City, because there seems to be no way that a team whose strategy is let's get on base and then figure this out, should be winning at the rate that they are winning against a team with better pitching. And to me, that weird, fluky way of playing, it's highly entertaining. Okay, for people out there that will say that baseball is boring, that is entertaining because something is always happening. There's always someone on base. There's always someone going around, at least when the Royals are hitting. That style of baseball, to me, entertaining baseball. It is. It's inside of this culture of I don't want to sit down and watch a thing that doesn't have instant action, instantaneous results. You're not going to be without that when you watch the Royals because they always hit something. Always. So that to me, that's an interesting game to watch. You cannot miss that this weekend. The Royals and the Mets. And the Mets aren't out of it, really, because they should have won game one. They were that close. And the Royals just came back, and it didn't look like the Royals were even worried or panicked. The Mets could have won game one. It's just how easily the Royals are able to hit and to score and to continue to keep themselves alive in situations where most teams probably would not be. I don't know if the Royals are the best team in baseball for cumulatively over the whole season, which is another debate to have. A lot of people believe it's the Jays. A lot of people believe that it's the Pirates. Maybe. But I'm saying the ability, in terms, even when you talk about, okay, being available to work, for instance, if you're working at a job, the person who is the most available to work will get a lot of the attention because availability is an ability. It's just like that in baseball. Having guys on base is an ability. Having the ability to just get guys on base, that's an ability. It's an important ability. Okay, we want to see homers. We want to see aggressive steals on base. We want to see great pitching. I think that the most important ability is just getting guys on base. That if you can just get guys on base, you always have a puncher's chance to win a game. And that's why the Royals have been so good. That's why they were so good last year. And the only problem with them last year was that they ran into Madison Bumgarner. Otherwise, they could have been the champs last year too. That the Giants had to run Madison Bumgarner out there on short rest, and Bumgarner just dominated. He doesn't do that. The Royals are the World Series champs last year. That's crazy to think about. This is Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. Talking about how the Mets and the Royals, that you need to be watching that. You need to be watching that. And then we'll move into college football talk a little bit more. After last night, I'm pretty fired up. Trayvon Boykin and the TCU Horned Frogs beat West Virginia 40-10. And Trayvon Boykin looked nigh unstoppable. He didn't look like a regular person at all. He's just so fast. I don't know if there's a quarterback that's harder to tackle in college football right now. Is there? I'm legitimately asking. I don't know. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube. Search Hot News Talk Radio and answer that question. Ask a question. Is there a quarterback that is harder to tackle right now than Trayvon Boykin at TCU? Actually, I might have argued Seth Russell before he went down, but I don't know for sure. I'm trying to think of anybody in the SEC that's that hard to bring down at quarterback. I can't think of any. I think all of our hard to tackle players are running backs. It's really hard to tackle Chubb. Really hard to tackle. Well, impossible to tackle Leonard Fournette. It seems it just runs right through you. You need assistance. You need about 2 or 3 other guys. And even then, as we learned in Auburn, that's not a guarantee that Leonard Fournette's not going to walk all over you and your dreams. No guarantee there whatsoever. So I honestly, is their quarterback harder to bring down than Trayvon Boykin? I don't think so. And he was my pick to win the Heisman Trophy before the season started. Wasn't a brave pick. Wasn't a bold pick, okay? You could have picked him. You could have picked Fournette. And you're not, carving out any new territory, I guess. But we'll talk more games you need to be watching this weekend right here on Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
This is America Now with Meghan McCain.
Al Gore running is crazy. You're flying around in your private jet all over the world, and you want average Americans to care about the environment. Don't you think you should be doing your part as well?
Meghan McCain, weekdays at 7 p.m.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Tired of insurance companies? Tired of doctors that won't spend time with you? Do something different. Leave the sick care model of medicine and come to Dr. Danielle Mitchell, the Chattanooga Sports Institute and Center for Health, where we're interested in long-term health solutions, not the quick fixes. Come see me, Dr. Danielle Mitchell, at the Chattanooga Sports Institute and Center for Health. I'm all about the long-term healthcare solutions and doing what's best. On the web, you can find me at ChattanoogaSportsInstitute.com. That's ChattanoogaSportsInstitute.com. Or call us at 875-1005, 875-1005, or find us on social media, Facebook, Dr. Danielle Mitchell, or the ChattanoogaSportsInstitute.com. Let's go, ya!
Are you tired of working in corporate America, or have you recently lost your job and would like to consider owning your own business? If you are, please call me, as I can help you look at franchises or business opportunities that fit you, the economy that we're in, and the type of businesses that are right in the greater Chattanooga area. After I help my clients find the right opportunity, I also help them find the best way to finance the business, including paying yourself through the startup phase. If you would like to learn more about opportunities that may be right for you, please call me for a free assessment. My name is Bruce Krebs at the Entrepreneur Source. Phone number is 423-875-5621.
Sky Aerial Services uses advanced drone technology to give you a better perspective and depth of your property and project. We offer aerial photography and video for your business, farm, home, or advertising campaigns, as well as editing services to complete the experience. Call us at 423-521-0284 and see how we can help you tell your story about your business, property, or project. We work with real estate professionals, both commercial and residential, developers, engineer inspectors, surveyors, ad agencies, auto and boat dealers, mapping services, insurance inspectors, corporate marketing, charity events, weddings, and photographers. Our consultation is free. Call 423-521-0284. That's 423-521-0284, or visit our website, skyaerialservices.com. Sky Aerial Services. The sky is our limit.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Costa, host of the Costa Report, every Sunday at 9 a.m. This week, we take a step back from politics, business, and global events to speak with well-being expert Deepak Chopra. We've all had the experience of feeling invisible at a party, at work, or at home. Join us as we discover what to do when we feel invisible this Sunday at 9 a.m. on the Costa Report, right here on AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
So I just learned something new, which maybe shouldn't have been new to me, considering that my job is to watch and track sports. But it was new to me because I was busy watching TCU. Leave me alone. Georgia's going to start backup quarterback Phaeton Bauta, who's been a third stringer for most of the season. And Bauta's a big guy, 6'3", 215 pounds. Grayson Lambert will not be the starter. This, according to Gridiron Now. So there you go. Phaeton Bauta. But that's the game that I want to talk about next. Georgia and Florida in a football match. So there you go. Here's the thing. All right. The Florida and Georgia rivalry is deep and it is intense. And Athens, Georgia is not that far away from Jacksonville. Georgia's going to the Swamp. These two schools don't like each other. There's a lot of hatred there. Okay, and I like those rivalries where there's just a history there, where there's not, the rivalry is not just based on the fact that we're near each other. We play so frequently with so much on the line so often that we do not like each other. And the SEC East, these are the kings of the SEC East. Florida and Georgia, this season, they're on top. They're on top. Winner basically punches their ticket to the SEC championship game because the rest of their schedules, both of them, not strong. Very, very weak rest of the schedule, due mostly in part to the fact that the out-of-conference games aren't that strong, and then what's left in the SEC East to play is not that strong for either team. Okay, so Georgia, Florida, it's an important matchup. And if you're a Tennessee fan, I see you over there in the corner, seething to yourself, muttering words of hatred underneath your breath, hoping that both of these teams just play to a tie. And as they continue to play into consecutive overtimes, both teams just dehydrate and pass it on the field, and nobody wins that game. But you have a rooting interest in this game. You do not get to root for 10 overtimes and dehydration. You need Georgia to beat Florida for the very, very slender chance that your team can somehow win the SEC East. And we talked about it earlier in the week that the SEC East is by no means a wide open conference, but it's just mediocre enough that somehow everybody still got a chance, unless you're Vanderbilt, in which case I'm sorry. But everybody else still has a chance. You need a lot of help. Tennessee Volunteers need a lot of help. You need Georgia to beat Florida. It has to happen exactly like that. And then you need Georgia to lose to either Vanderbilt or South Carolina. Again, both of these things highly, highly unlikely, but not impossible. And then, of course, Tennessee, you yourself must win out, which that again is also not impossible. So Tennessee fan, you're rooting for Georgia. That's your team now too. And everybody else, I guess I'll just sit back and watch the game and try and avoid people making Georgia, Florida line jokes, because A, they're not funny, and B, if there's a band on this earth that I don't like, it's them. They're not good. That's the song. That song's not a good song. The one that they're known for that plays. I don't know the name of the song, but I hear it everywhere. You can listen to Sean Hannity here on AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. That song plays as the intro to his show, which doesn't make any sense because Hannity is in New York. I don't understand that one, not one iota. I don't get it. Okay, I don't understand it. Will not pretend to understand it. But on top of that, I have to hear that dreadful song on a daily basis. And I don't like it. And I'm not a fan of them, which, I'm sure they're great guys. It's just not a good song. That's just not a good song. So that is part of my take here on the games you need to be watching this weekend here on Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, brought to you by My Big Mouth, but also brought to you by Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds. Got any gold necklaces or bracelets that you think aren't worth anything? Let Rick personally appraise them and give you cash on the spot at Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds. We're talking about games you need to be watching this weekend, and Georgia, Florida, one of the great rivalries, not just in college football, but in sports. And the reason why this particular game is of note is because winner wins the SEC East. more or less. Unless shenanigans ensue and somehow Vanderbilt and South Carolina beat Georgia after Georgia beats Florida, then somehow, if Tennessee wins out, they would win the SEC East. Yeah, it's a long shot. Actually got into an argument with a Tennessee fan who was like, this is happening. Actually believed that it was happening. And I know most of you are not that delusional. Because, I mean, if you're a sports fan, you're a little delusional. There's a hope factor there that just lingers. And I understand it. Okay, but when is it time to just be a realist and just say, you know what? We can't do this. We're not winning this. That there's a never give up mentality. I'm not saying the Tennessee players ought to give up. I'm saying don't add expectations that don't need to exist into your life if you're a Tennessee fan. Be aware that there's like a 2% chance that your team could win the SEC East, but don't actually buy in. Don't actually go all the way in and go, this is happening. Okay, I would not advise such behavior. That is not a good way to be, ladies and gents. And we can do it in sports all of the time. We just get our hopes up, and we've all been there. I know because I've been there. Usually, somehow, you realistically believe, okay, this team has got no chance to win. I root for the Redskins in the NFL. This is a common occurrence. This is, in fact, a weekly occurrence. The Redskins don't have a chance to win whatever game it is that they're playing. That's just how that is. Okay. Even against the Buccaneers last week, I was like, there's a chance that they could lose this very winnable game. That doesn't happen very often, that the Redskins are in a game that I perceive to be winnable. That was one where I was like, they could lose this game. And then they ended up almost losing that game. But the next game that the Redskins will play is against the New England Patriots. And I know for a fact that the Redskins can't beat the Patriots. Someone's going to beat the Patriots. I don't think they go undefeated. It's just that's a really hard thing to do, and they've already done it once in their team history with Tom Brady and Gronk and Belichick. I don't think you can do that again. That's just too hard to do, no matter how good they are and have been playing. And I don't think that the Redskins get to be the team that slips them up. But I've already started kind of convincing myself that that's the case. There's scenarios where that could happen. It does involve an injury to Brady or Gronk, particularly Brady. I mean, I don't root for the injury. Okay, I'm not saying it's going to happen. Maybe he gets the cold or something, and he just can't dial it in. Okay. The Redskins have absolutely no secondary. They got stomped by the Jets. What of it? What of it? I think they can do it. If you asked me a week ago, I would have told you no, because I'm a realist. But I'm starting to get into that delusional phase now. And you get closer to the end of the season, you're a Vols fan, and your fate is hanging in the balance right now of a Florida-Georgia game. And I don't even know how that feels. And I'm sorry that's hanging. The fate of your season is hanging in the hands of the Georgia Bulldogs, which could be a win-win situation if you're a Bulldogs fan. That if you win, then obviously SEC East champs, we can crown you that prematurely, as though that's never backfired before, crowning someone before all the games have been played out. That's never backfired before, but realistically and foreseeably, let's just say, for the sake of argument, SEC champs, or the fact that you get to probably just ruin the lives of a lot of Tennessee fans. That's a rivalry that cuts two ways, quite frankly. You've got quite a lot to gain there. Florida and Georgia, that is a game that you should be watching this weekend. The NBA season has begun, and I know that this early in the season, especially around here, nobody is on fire for the Atlanta Hawks. But the Hawks opened their season pretty poorly against the Detroit Pistons. Kyle Korver didn't play well. They got pushed around a lot. They didn't look very good. And they looked weak. They looked very weak. And one of the things that was notable about them was that they're a big team now, not necessarily huge, but you have Splitter. Okay, Horford is not tiny by any stretch of the imagination, and neither is Millsap, and they just got completely out-rebounded in that game. They played the Knicks last night, and they bounced back. Okay, they look a little better. They're able to contain Derek Williams, which is not a phrase that I ever thought I'd say, but they looked good. They looked more like their old selves. The Hawks played well. Kyle Korver played well specifically. The shots that weren't falling in the first game fell last night. But I want to see how legit they are, especially on the defensive end where they looked a little shaky against the Pistons. They're not going to play very many teams as big as the Pistons are. The Pistons are huge. They've got Drummond for starters. That's a big guy. That's a big guy for you. But with the Hornets coming into town, or rather they're going to play the Hornets in Charlotte, they're playing a much smaller team. And this is a team that probably matches up better to their sensibilities. They're moving the ball, they're pacing and spacing. This is a team that they'll probably be able to match up better against, and we'll get a more realistic portrayal of what it is that Atlanta looks like, because this is a team that doesn't want to change the tempo of the game, to slow it down, to grind it out, to play bully ball. Hawks don't want to play bully ball. They want to move the ball. You want to keep it moving. And I think that just as a sneaky, underrated game to watch this weekend, if you don't have anything going on and you've just got some time on Sunday, just 2 o'clock on Sunday to check out Atlanta and Charlotte. Charlotte looks like a fun team as well. They've got Jeremy Lin in the offseason. And Jeremy Lin, by the way, one of the fastest players in the NBA. They clocked him. He's top 3. Him and Kemba Walker, who's also incredibly fast. So you're going to see a lot of fast plays, quick plays. That is an underrated game this weekend to watch. And if you're a basketball fan and, you don't want to watch the Titans because the Titans have been bad, they've been awful, that is a game that I recommend you avoid this weekend. I don't know off the top of my head who they're playing, but you don't have to watch it if you don't want to. I really wouldn't. I really wouldn't. But you can check out the Hawks and the Hornets. That's going to probably be a very, very fun game. And the identity of this Hawks team, that's what I want to see. Can they be the team that won 60 games last season again? They're 1-1, and this is how you gather up the sample size. Okay, I know that the NBA season can be very, very long, but let's be honest. They don't play basketball every day. Okay, you've got, once every other day, once every 3 days. It's not the baseball season. I've heard it compared to the baseball season. Sure, it's 82 games as compared to 160. Okay, I'll live with the 82. You don't have to watch it every day. All right, and they're playing the Hornets, and they look pretty good. They look pretty good so far, so we'll see how legit they are. Clutch is brought to you by Rick Davis, Gold and Diamonds. Got any gold, necklaces, or bracelets that you think aren't worth anything? Let Rick personally appraise them and give you cash on the spot at Rick Davis, Gold and Diamonds. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240, Hot News, Talk Radio. And when we get back, we will have the big finale, the game that you need to be watching this weekend, right here on AM 1240, Hot News, Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Fox News Talk 1240.
Are you tired of feeling like just another account number to your financial advisor? Try something refreshingly different. Call Edward Jones Financial Advisor Patrick Neal in Hickson at 870-7894. Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
We've got a table here at Delia's in Saudi Daisy, ready to delight in a plate of authentic Mexican food. Delia's spreads a rich selection: loaded nachos, crazy chicken, homemade tamales, maybe the enchiladas with beef, chicken, pork, quesadillas. Every dish beautifully pictured on the menu to help us decide. Join us for lunch or dinner. We're at Delia's in Saudi Daisy on Dayton Pike near the Thrasher Light. Here's dinner. Delia's uses the freshest ingredients, cooked to perfection. Nachos, homemade. Delia's open every day except the Lord's Day. For lunch and dinner, treat yourself to Delia's genuine Mexican food. In Saudi, call 521-7145. That's 521-7145.
Social media, we're on that. Hot News Talk Radio on Facebook, at Hot News Talk Radio on Twitter. Download the TuneIn app and follow us anywhere at any time. AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
It's not the big game, but it is a game that you should be watching. And this is Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. Make sure to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Also, check us out on hotnewstalkradio.com. You can tweet at me. My Twitter handle is @SportsCloud. I usually tweet during games. Sometimes the tweets are funny. I try to make them all funny, but sometimes they're funny. One big game to watch this weekend is Temple. The Temple Owls from Philadelphia, if you don't know where that's from. Ranked number 21 in the nation, and I think a surprise to many people. They're 8-0, and they play Notre Dame. Notre Dame is ranked number 9, and I wanted to do this show. I wanted to do the picks with Mr. Judd, but he's out this week, and maybe I'll just email him the picks and put them up online, put them up on the Facebook page. Search Hot News Talk Radio. But this would have been a game that I would have put because these games kind of confound us. And we had one before with Memphis. If you recall, Memphis was undefeated and Memphis went ahead and played, and let me pull it up here. Memphis went ahead and played Ole Miss, and so it's just like what happens when a school like Memphis in Conference USA runs into a school like Ole Miss, who hasn't been playing great this season and hasn't been incredibly consistent, but they're also from a bigger conference. They also play more difficult teams regularly. Like Memphis this week is playing Tulane. Ole Miss hasn't had a luxury like that necessarily. Ole Miss has lost games to not only Memphis, but Florida. And you wouldn't think that Memphis would beat Ole Miss. You know, Ole Miss end up being a 2-loss team, and I would have given the advantage to Ole Miss. In fact, I did. Both Mr. Judd and I picked Ole Miss over Memphis because neither of us really expected Memphis to win. Like, they're good. They're in a tinier conference. They're plucky upstarts. They're not necessarily going to give this team an L. And yet here we are. Memphis is still undefeated. So now we have a similar situation. Notre Dame, big school, 1-loss team, 6-1. They're playing Temple. Temple is 7-0. Looking to go 8-0. And they're the smaller school here. Okay? And so do you choose the school that is undefeated based on the merit of their record? Do you try and gauge who they've played so far? These are the games that prove that you don't know anything about college football. Like, you just don't know. You think you know, but you don't know if Notre Dame is actually going to beat Temple. And I would love to have heard from Mr. Judd to see what he would pick, because that is interesting to me Notre Dame is an 11-point favorite. So we'll put those picks up on the Facebook page if I can get those to him. I have frequently lied about putting things up on the Facebook page, or I put things up on the Facebook page incredibly late. Cannot at all seem to get that up in any timely amount of time. I will put that up on the Facebook page as soon as I step out of here. I promise. This is Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. But I really like Temple's chances. Now, here's why I do like Temple's chances, and here's why I don't like Temple's chances. And the reason why I picked this as a game that you should watch this weekend is not just because of the storyline of the tiny school with the undefeated record versus the school that's got one loss that's bigger. And we usually just write off the tiny school as, okay, they're tiny, so they play tiny, no-name opponents, and that's how they got undefeated. That's not necessarily the case for Temple. But also, another reason why I put this on as a game that needs to be watched this weekend is that it's really fun to root against Notre Dame. That Notre Dame, not unlike the Cowboys and the Yankees and Alabama, do a lot of winning, and people don't like them for no particular reason except they do a lot of winning, or historically they have done a lot of winning. Like, what do you need with more championships? Why can't you let my long-suffering fan base get one, you greedy organization, you? That's how we feel about the Notre Dames of the world. Like, there was a time when you ruled college football. Can you not let someone else in? As though Notre Dame were the bouncer at club championship, denying applications to everyone trying to get inside. Like, it's not necessarily how that works, but we treat it that way in a very obsessive fashion that makes no sense. And that's what that's what makes some games interesting, that you can just tune in to hate. Like, you could just tune in to do nothing other than dislike a team. LeBron gets a lot of this. LeBron had this follow him, that people didn't like how much he was uplifted and how hyped he was in Cleveland, rooted against him there. He went to Miami. Sure, he did it in a very controversial fashion, but still the hate that he got for doing that was rather unjustified compared to what it was that he actually did, which was be a free agent and sign with another team. And people, ascribe their hate to so many different things instead of it just admitting, you know what, we don't like that LeBron left. You tie it to the decision. The decision was a bad way to leave. Like, yes, okay, it was clunky and it was ham-handed how he left and how he chose to make that decision known. But that's still not a reason to dislike a person you've never met. Then LeBron goes to Miami. He promises not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7 championships, which in retrospect, okay, that's ridiculous. I get it. But still, okay, what does that do to you? In what manner and way does that affect you? It really doesn't. It really doesn't. But you just chose to justify your hatred of the guy by saying, oh, look, he's arrogant. Look at what he said. Instead of the fact that you think he betrayed Cleveland. You just don't like him. You still don't want him to win because he gets a lot of praise. Whether you think it's due praise or not, he gets a lot of praise. You don't like him. And so you continue to root against him. And people were tuning in to watch LeBron James fail. And when they lost to Dallas the first time and when they lost to San Antonio the last time in his 4 years in Miami, people enjoyed that. People enjoyed the failure of LeBron James and tuned in just to watch LeBron James fail. And I think that this game, Notre Dame versus Temple, is a must-see game because no matter where you live in this great nation of ours, there are people that don't like Notre Dame. You just don't like Notre Dame. And here's a perfectly good reason to root against Notre Dame that you can also hide behind, which is that Temple is a tiny school that's suddenly winning football games, and you can just support them. Just go ahead and root for Temple, even though this game could be a low-scoring affair. I mean, the over-under that Vegas has is 50. I have no idea how they got 50. that the total points scored in this game is going to be 50. I see that this could probably be a low-scoring game because, sure, okay, Notre Dame doesn't have the best defense, and their secondary gives up yards like, it's Halloween, and they're just giving away Halloween candy. You just have those yards, and happy Halloween to you too. You're just giving it away. I get it. But Temple's the 108th ranked offense in this country. It's not like they're putting up points. They're not exactly throwing bombs over here. All right, so there's that. But you want to root for the plucky upstarts? The Temple Owls, who nobody cared about up until the day that we realized, oh no, they're undefeated and they're playing Notre Dame. All of a sudden, this is a game. Like LSU and Alabama, that game isn't this week, that's next week, and we already have it circled on the calendars. We had that one circled on the calendars before the season started. Nobody had Notre Dame and Temple circled. I promise. But it's a sneaky good game because of the storylines involved. Anytime you have the team that you weren't paying attention to and suddenly, wait, what? Temple is 7-0? They could be 8-0? That's a great storyline. They're playing Notre Dame, so you've got David and Goliath. That's a great storyline. Notre Dame's got 3 players from Philadelphia coming back home, going to play in Philadelphia against the Philadelphia team. That's a great storyline. I mean, the city of Philadelphia doesn't care about college football. They don't care about Temple. Okay? You talk about football in Philadelphia, you're talking about the Philadelphia Eagles. We're not talking about the Temple Owls. So you finally got the home team. You got them something to root for because God knows it's nearly impossible to root for the Eagles. This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. We're talking about the game you need to be watching this weekend. I know that it's not the best game on in terms of regional support. That, yes, you would rather watch Florida and Georgia. And that game has more ramifications for more people around here. Vols fans, your tiny sliver of hope lies on the shoulders of the Georgia Bulldogs taking on the Florida Gators in the swamp. Bulldog fans, you win this, punch your ticket to the SEC championship game, basically. Win this and win out, you're in. Same thing goes for Florida. Win this and win out, you're in. Done. But Notre Dame is a cool team to hate. Okay, do you want to tune in and not like Notre Dame? Like, I don't like Notre Dame. I don't even know why. I don't have any specific reason. I just know that my father never liked Notre Dame, and when we would watch football and Notre Dame was playing, that man was booing Notre Dame for no good reason. Like, it was just, there was no reason to really dislike Notre Dame except that they have that feel that the Yankees have and the Cowboys have, and that there's an expected winning there from not just them, but their fan base that gets kind of annoying, and you want to see Goliath get cut down to size. And they're the embodiment of Goliath, basically. And they've played some Halloween games in the past because Notre Dame and Notre Dame football has been around for an eternity. So they've been around so often that they have just happened to play Halloween games. They've done this 15 times. They've played 15 Halloween games. And do you know how many Halloween games the Fighting Irish have lost in the history of that team? Not one. They have never lost a Halloween game. They are 15-0 on Halloween. Isn't that weird? Like, just a weird thing to have happen. And I wish I had looked up who they had played in all the Halloweens before, like, just to see, were they just playing scrubs or were those close games and they just pulled it out? I mean, do you just bet Notre Dame 15-0 on Halloween? 15-0 on Halloween. Unbelievable. Completely unbelievable. I would never have thought. That is your college football game to watch this week. Not just college football game. So let's run it back. Let's run it down here. Which which games should you be watching this weekend? We'll go back to the beginning. Mets, Royals. That series could probably end over the weekend, but the fluky, weird, strange way that the Royals play baseball makes that, to me, worth a watch. You have to watch that, okay? They don't dominate in pitching. They don't have the better bullpen. They don't. They do not pitch better than the Mets do. Syndergaard pitches tonight. Yesterday, 2 days ago, was DeGrom, and the day before that, it was Harvey. These guys are some of the best pitchers in baseball, and the Kansas City Royals have just confounded two of them. And I don't know if Syndergaard can do it tonight. Syndergaard pitches 100 miles an hour fastballs and things like that. I mean, he's a monster, but these Royals just aren't missing the ball. Check that out. Check out the Hawks and the Hornets. Are the Atlanta Hawks for real? Can they repeat what they did a season ago? This is the perfect team to see the real face of the Atlanta Hawks. Florida and Georgia, which should be the game of this week. But in my opinion, it doesn't have as many storylines as the game you need to be watching this weekend, Notre Dame versus Temple. You have to check it out. This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio Clutch with Keon Rose. Thank you for joining me today. Clutch is brought to you by Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds. Got any gold necklaces or bracelets that you think aren't worth anything? Let Rick Davis personally appraise them and give you cash on the spot at Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds. Make sure you check out all the games that I mentioned earlier. Make sure you hit us up on Facebook and Twitter. Love to interact and talk with you as always. And make sure you tune in for more news and everything else coming up here on Hot News Talk Radio. I'll see you on Monday.
Compass Media Network's coverage of the NFL. Hi, this is Jerry Recco. Join Kevin Ray, Danny White, and myself for all the action.